Okay, that'll be great.
It's been too long.
Raleigh, North Carolina. How you doing? Welcome in. You have now entered the RDU Live radio show right here on Oak 93.5 WRLY. And I'm your host, Cameron McCarty. I appreciate you for tuning in. Hey, if you're out there on the roadways, if you're out there on 45, 40, wherever you might be, reach over, turn us up, but make sure you're buckling up. Want to make sure you're staying safe. It's rush hour traffic. It's bumper to bumper. Just want to make sure you're staying safe out there. And if you're watching on one of the streams, whether that's Facebook, YouTube, no matter where you're at, we appreciate you as well. Go ahead, put something in the comments. Let us know you're watching. And don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. They say it helps the algorithm or something like that. And for anybody listening out there, this is a call-in show. And that means when we're not playing music, the phone lines are wide open. We'll see if they're working today. Last week we had some technical difficulties. We don't know what's going to happen today, but try anyway. So that phone number is 919-899-9305. That's 919-899-9305. Look, we got a jam-packed show today. We got a really good show. We got somebody sitting in the studio with us. We got another musician for you. We got Mr. Patrick McGrew. How you doing, Patrick?
Good, Cam. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you for being here. So if you've been following the RDU Live show, the Durham Live, wherever you were following us at before, you probably have seen Patrick McGrew's face. We did a little stand-up thing, kind of man on the street one day outside of the Pour Tap Room. We were playing out there, and we had a little interview out there. I don't know if the people remember it, but that's kind of how this whole thing started, the genesis of it. So this is a full circle moment for us. Now you're in the studio with us.
Yeah, it's nice to be in here. It's nice to be out there, and now it's nice to be in here.
Yeah, we're doing it all. So we're going to have a conversation and just talk about things and life and music and all that you got going on in just a second, all right? Cool. So if you've been listening to the show, you know we always start the show off with something real, something relevant to the Triangle or the world at large. And we got a couple things just to talk about at the top of the show, couple housekeeping things. You already know it's Tuesday, and you know what happens on Tuesday. CJ Baker and the crew, they're over at the Durham Beer Garden tonight. They have an open mic night. It starts at 8 p.m. They have a featured artist. And then after that, around about 9 o'clock, they do the open mic night. You bring your music, bring your vocals, bring your poetry, whatever, and bring an instrument. If you play, you might be able to hop on and become a part of the session there. So that's every Tuesday. You know exactly where it's at the Durham Beer Garden over in Durham, North Carolina. All right, and there's a couple other things that are happening this week and the surrounding weeks. I'm going to have to look at my notes for this one. So if you're watching on the stream, I'm not checking my phone on social media this time. I'm actually looking at the notes on the iPad. So we have Marcel Anderson. Marcel Anderson, if you don't know who that is, you might be living up under a rock. He's been on the show before. He's a part of the RDU Live ecosystem now. Marcel Anderson, he travels around the world, literally singing and doing his music, but he's back in the Triangle this weekend. Doing an acoustic tribute show to Marvin Gaye and John Legend. An acoustic tribute show to Marvin Gaye and John Legend. That alone tells you right there. It's going to be some good vibes on that one. And that's going to be Saturday, June 1st. From 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. over at Bond Brothers East Side. That's over there in Cary. If you've never been to that place, it's actually a really cool vibe. And if you have been, you can only imagine someone like Marcel Anderson doing a tribute to Marvin Gaye and John Legend in that venue. It's going to be a great vibe, a great time. Anytime Marcel is up there singing, it's always something good. So that's going to be Saturday, June 1st, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Bond Brothers East Side. Marcel Anderson, an acoustic tribute show to Marvin Gaye and John Legend. All right. Next up is the North Carolina Jazz Continuum. All right. Larry Drawn. Can you make sure I'm saying that last name right?
Yeah. Larry Drawn.
Drawn. They're doing an evening of Nina and Joni. So that's referencing Nina Simone and Joni Mitchell. Mm-hmm. You know, this a lot of stuff that's going on here. This is some pretty cool, interesting vibes there. Cool, interesting vibes. An evening of Nina and Joni, referencing Nina Simone and Joni Mitchell. That's going to be on June 9th at 6 p.m. at the Moore Music Company. That's in Greensboro, if I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's in Greensboro, and I'm going to that show.
See?
I'm gonna be there.
See, Patrick's gonna be there, so you should be there too, right? Right. So that's an evening of Nina and Joni, June 9th at 6 p.m. at the Moore Music Company, the North Carolina Jazz Continuum. Patrick McGrew will be in the building there. He will be in the building, and so that's going to be featuring Candy Sugarfoot Herbin. If you've never heard her sing, that's someone that you gotta hear. That's somebody that you gotta hear. We're gonna have William Darity and Kenny Phelps McCowan. That's why we got Patrick in here. That's why we got Patrick in here, to make the whole thing go round, right? So we got Kenny Phelps McCowan.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And that's going to be June 9th at 6 p.m. All right. Last but not least, we have the Eloquent Soul Band. Dasan Hanu. If you don't know who Dasan Hanu is, you must be living under a rock. He's a world-renowned poet, and we're just lucky enough that he actually resides here in the Triangle, but he's actually doing his 50th birthday.
Wow.
And they're doing a live taping over at the BU Cafe, another wonderful venue. They haven't been doing as much lately, so that's a venue that you want to get into when you can. And they're going to be there. Let me check my notes again, make sure I'm getting this thing right. Thursday, May 30th at 7:30 p.m. May 30th at 7:30 p.m. The doors will open at 7, and it's a free show. Once again, CJ Baker, he's going to be behind the sticks, behind the drum set. They're going to have a full band there. It's, if you know anything about Dasan Hanu, any of the stuff that he does, it always has a jazz feel, a soul feel, a little bit of hip hop in it. So it's that kind of, it's a very eclectic vibe. It's a very good vibe. That's somewhere you want to be, and it's as far as I know, what they have said is the tickets are free. It's a free show.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Doors open at 7. Show starts at 7:30, and it's a live videotaping. And anytime, I work in the video industry. Anytime it's a live videotaping, make sure you get there on time. So you're not walking into camera shots and all of that kind of stuff. That's one you don't want to miss. Cool. So that's what's coming up on the bill. There's always stuff going on. Hence why we have this show, RDU Live. There's always some live entertainment that's happening somewhere, and we always like to showcase things that are going on in the Triangle, positive things in the Triangle, and those are a couple that you might want to check out if you have the time and you're looking for something to do. There goes a couple of events to go to. All right. Before we get into Patrick, I just wanted to bring something up here quickly. Here, just very quickly. We've talked about it before, and it's just one of these ongoing things. I was having a conversation with someone about the construction in downtown Raleigh, downtown Durham, and I don't know, maybe about a month ago, I did a whole segment on the Indie Week had an article. And they were interviewing the owners of Full Steam Brewery. And I don't if you're familiar with the area, Full Steam Brewery is downtown Durham. If you know where Motorco Music Hall, that whole area, there's a lot of construction. There's a couple condos that are being built pretty much around Motorco and above, all that good stuff. And it's been going on for almost a year now or so. And they were interviewing the owners of the Full Steam Brewery, just kind of getting their perspective on how they felt about it. And by and large, mixed reviews. Of course, people moving into the city, always a good thing as far as revenue and people coming in to spend money. However, the construction has really, really, really altered business, as we would say. Altered business. I was having a conversation. I won't say with who, but they're pretty prominent in the city of Durham, and they were explaining some of the backstory behind it. And to cut the long story short, is it really has a lot more to do with revenue than we even think. there's a lot of money moving in the background. There's a lot of money moving in the background with these construction things and with the taxes, of course, that are being paid, and as far as the deals that have been cut and all of this, which is very positive. And I'm saying all of this stuff in a positive way. But when it comes to the physical timeline of such, just to give people out there a general perspective, this construction will probably be going on until about 2026, 27. This strong wave of it. It's set. So even as they finish, there will be more to come. So I just wanted to kind of circle that back. We talked about the differences of is it good, is it bad? We're not trying to answer any questions. We just have conversations, and we were just looking at timelines and just really talking about that thing. And I had another conversation and got a little bit more insight, and it looks like the bill is set. So we'll be in this construction phase, at least in Durham. I haven't spoken to anybody about Raleigh yet, but at least in Durham, we'll be seeing some construction going on for the next 3 years. So buckle up. Make sure you got the right tires on your car when you're going down there, and you learn how to maybe the new kids, when they get their driver's license, we teach them how to weave through cones and stuff.
Yeah, I'll add my little 2 cents, because I lived in downtown until just a couple months ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't move away because of construction or anything. But I remember when none of the high rises like around Durham Central Park were built, and that was probably 4 or more years ago when those were built. I have friends who live in there now.
Yeah.
I like going to the food hall on the ground level. But when I was living downtown, I used to be able to look out the back window and just see trees. And then it was, in the distance, there's some stuff. And then there was an apartment complex built the street before, and now I look out the back window, or when I still lived there a couple months ago, and I'd look right into some apartents across the street.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot of changing.
Yeah, a lot of changing. And, I'm on both sides of it. I think change is good. I think growing populations are always good. And the way I left that last conversation about a month ago was, how do we all work together, right? How does the new population that's coming in fast, how do we all work together and really, work cohesively? How do we live, and how does the existing business owners that might be affected by construction, how do they mesh with the new people coming in? I was reading in that particular article, they were talking about that, some of the new tenants to some of the places in that area down on Rigsby Avenue, they would call in noise complaints for like the surf club or the pickleback. But
and anyone who lived around there saw that coming a mile away. As soon as I remember when I was sitting on the patio at Parts and Labor, the restaurant attached to Motorco, and I saw them, how close they were building those.
Yeah.
I was like, I could throw, a cheese curd.
Yeah,
and hit and it'd land on someone's patio.
Yeah.
I was bracing myself for someone filing noise complaints because they moved in right next to or above a rock venue.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't come as a surprise to anybody who's been around there, especially before all that got started.
Right. So it's it's going to be an interesting conversation over the next 10 years, as new populations come in and kind of meshing with what's already there, with Motorco being a rock venue and people living on top of it, Mm-hmm. So, was it meant for that? I don't know. Who knows? We're about to find out. We're about to find out. Cool. So just wanted to make that full circle there and talk about, just something that's going on in the Triangle. So without further ado, let's get into the guests. Let's get into the brass tacks of this thing. Mr. Patrick McGrew is sitting across from us. I appreciate you for coming in once again, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me, Cam.
Yeah, I know, man. That's a no-brainer. So just to kind of give the people a point of reference once again, we've done an interview kind of outside of Port Tap Room before. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways we kind of met is you have like a jam session at Port Tap Room, right?
Yeah. So this year it's the first Thursday of every month.
Okay.
From 8 to 10 on the patio at Port Tap Room. It's a jazz jam session. And it's open the whole time. Normally, folks kind of roll up for the second half, but if you're there in the first half, you can sit in too. The last 2 years, it had been weekly. But I think just kind of with the rate at which everything is growing, I forget what it was. It's something like every 6 weeks, there's 3 new bars and restaurants opening up in the Triangle. I know Poor was hurting a little bit, so we've had to dial that back. But right now, that is first Thursday of every month. So it's coming up on whatever it is, June
7th. Yeah, that should be the 7th because the 4th is a Tuesday. So, if you got it on your calendar, the June 4th, 6 p.m., you know where to be.
The 6th. Sorry,
so
June
it's the 6th. Yep,
June 6th.
So jazz, you threw out a term there, a jazz jam session. Let's talk about this thing. So you're a musician. What's your principal instrument? What's your genre? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm a drummer.
Okay.
I'm a drummer, percussionist. I mostly play drum set. I can also play different hand percussion and congas, and I went to North Carolina Central University.
Shout out. You're an Eagle.
Exactly. Eagle Pride. Yeah. And while I was getting my jazz studies degree there, I had to work on xylophone and marimba and timpani and play concert percussion as well.
Interesting.
It's been a few years since I've touched any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say, I'm a drummer. I played the drums. And then I have my own jazz trio, the Patrick McGrew trio. So that's who I'm gigging out with most of the time, whether it's hosting the jam session or just last month we were playing every, I guess it's this month, but they're over now, playing every Sunday out at Botanist and Barrel and playing at Arcana sometimes and other places around town. But I also play, have been in, different rock bands or got to go on the road with this kind of hard rock, math rock band once a few years ago and played in the Triangle Afrobeat Orchestra for a couple years pre-pandemic. It was hard to get 12 people in a room to rehearse there for a minute. And then I kind of, I hadn't played with them since then, but I think they're still out doing stuff.
So I got a question there. So, if you're watching on the stream or even if you're listening, you can kind of see Patrick, he's a little, you chill, you got this calm voice. How is it? So I've seen you, I can envision you doing jazz, but how do you switch up and do rock, man?
Yeah, no one, it's always funny to show people the music when I went on the road with this band. It's called Irata. They're out of Greensboro, IRATA. This was 2015 or something, spring of 2016, something like that. And that was a really fun story and a really formative week for me because I had a day and a half to kind of learn their songs before we went on the road.
Oh, wow.
It was a week-long tour. I was in college, and a couple of them were older and were teachers, so it was spring break.
Yeah.
So that was when they scheduled it. So we went from, North Carolina to Ohio up to Milwaukee to New York and back down the East Coast. I really started playing, when I started playing drums, I was playing along to records, and the records I was playing along to were Green Day and Blink-182.
Okay, yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
As well as I was playing in church.
Okay.
Which is not.
Yeah. Two
not
totally
the same.
Things. Yeah, two totally different things. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So you came up kind of before you got trained. You're just playing along with different stuff. I always ask the musicians, when they talk about different genres and do you have to switch your brain to play or is it just drums or drums? Is it how do you gear up for playing a straight ahead jazz versus a Blink-182 song? Is it the same? Is it the same process?
It's a little different. Normally, so if you're playing, let's say, covers of a Blink-182 song, there's a drum part.
Yep.
There's a correct part to play for the song, and there's a set structure to the song as far as, verse, chorus, bridge, all that stuff in a specific order. And so playing a cover like that is very different from playing a jazz tune with the trio because we know the melody and we know the form of the melody, but we might
it's more improvisation.
Absolutely, because we might I don't know what Chris Mills is the bass player in my trio. I don't know what order we're going to solo in. I don't know how long people are going to solo. I don't know what they're going to play, and it's much more conversational.
Interesting.
Somebody can start out more like a whisper or kind of like yelling. And if you were having a conversation with someone and they came in real loud and energetic, you would respond a lot differently than if they're talking under their breath.
Interesting. So speaking of the jazz trios and stuff like that, going along that line of thinking, do you guys practice that, or is it just we know what songs that we're gonna play and we come and we just kind of riff on the set?
So we definitely rehearse some. Once you've been playing together for a long time, you can always rehearse more. But especially, I mean, Chris and I used to be roommates, so we would get together and play, and it was about making sure the time felt good, so that the drum and bass hookup was there.
Yeah,
and that it was feeling good, because some people like to play more on top of the beat or behind the beat or right on the beat, and there's a whole bunch of small nuances in there. But you just want it to be natural and conducive. And then also, if we're learning new tunes, there was last year or the year before, we were learning a bunch of Ellis Marsalis tunes.
Oh, yeah.
So those were ones that not many other people knew. I actually learned them for a gig I got called the sub for that ended up falling through. But I liked them so much, we had to work on them.
Interesting.
But so songs like that, where it's like, hey, I need you to know the melody. Maybe we want to do our own thing with it, whether that's approach the melody differently, or instead of a regular drum solo, maybe it's a trading section. Maybe this is more common in big band for there to be like a horn line kind of call and response situation. But you can do whatever you want. Or do we want to leave it wide open?
Interesting. I have another question along that line, but really quick, I want to address, hey, I know someone's calling in. I know it. My apologies. I just got the note from the producer engineer in the background. The phone is being wonky. That's the term that I'm reading right here. Phone is being wonky, so unfortunately no calls today. So if you're calling in, I do see you. I'm not ignoring you. My apologies for not saying that at the top of the show. I just saw the note. That is my apologies. So if you're calling in, my apologies. We'll have to try again next week. That is on me. But thank you for calling in anyway. As I take that break, just want to say, hey, we're here. It's Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. the RDU Live radio show. You're listening in right now. I'm your host, Cameron McCarty, and we're sitting here talking to Patrick McGrew, and we're just talking about music and different things. And I have my nerd question. Have my nerd question. How long does it take you to learn a song?
It depends. So, I have a church gig. I play at a Cary First Christian Church over in Cary on Sundays, and sometimes we'll work on a new song, and sometimes it's just sometimes it's new music is very similar to what you're already used to playing.
Makes sense.
And especially sometimes in a church context, if it's a hymn, you're going to play it the same way, or it's up to the musical director. So in that case, it might be a matter of, all right, let me listen to it once or most of once, and then have a couple questions about how do we start it, how do we end it, are there hits anywhere?
And what's a hit?
A hit would be like a certain rhythm that you want to make sure you accent. So on the drums, I might have a fill into a crash.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Just normally it's a rhythm that the keys, whether it's organ or piano, is gonna hit at the same time.
Gotcha.
So
gotcha.
That's what I mean when I'm talking about a hit.
Okay.
On the other hand, I'm working on this music with my friend Nick Van Buskirk from Greensboro.
Okay.
And because we are playing, actually this next month we're playing not every Thursday because they got one, but we're playing the first, second, and fourth Thursday at Boxyard in RTP from noon to 2. It's a singer-songwriter situation. So Nick has these original songs that are much more intricate.
Really?
And not confusing. Yeah. They're very musical. Yeah. But it starts in 3 and it goes to 4, and it's much more lyrical. It's a kind of music. It's harder to count. It's easier to try to internalize the melody and sing along than it is to count your way through it. So that takes a little bit more time because it's just different than what I'm used to.
Okay, so question there.
Yeah.
When you're approaching music, either learning new music or playing, you're a drummer. So what's your style? Are you like technical with like counting measures and bars and all that, or do you just try to feel it? Like how do you kind of approach it from a theory standpoint?
Sure. So if I mean, genre aside, if someone's like, check out this song, and let's say it's not a jazz tune because it's a different approach than like an R&B tune or a pop tune. I'm probably listening for the form. So, all right, that's the verse. How long is the verse? How many times does that happen before we switch it up? And then also, are there any cues? Does the bass line change it up? Do the chords change right before we go into the new section? And honestly, I love to learn the lyrics to songs because it's much easier for me to say, what's the lyric? That's being sung right then than it is to say, is that the third verse after the, than it is to
interesting.
To think about it that way. So I like to learn the lyrics to songs, and it makes it easier for me.
Okay, so you actually like to learn the lyric of the songs that you're playing.
Yeah. And sometimes if you're just listening to it on repeat, that kind of happens on its own. More or less, especially if there's it's the chorus and you're like, oh, maybe there's a hit in the chorus, or you have to lay out for a section.
Okay.
What's the lyric there? What are you saying right there? Can be easier than someone saying, all right, in the second measure on the E of 2, I need you to hit this.
Yeah. It's easier just to say, all right, on the whatever.
On the whatever. Higher. On the I need you to boom. Do something.
Interesting. Okay. I'm learning here.
But I'll tell you, when I had that gig with Irada, I wrote out what were called lead sheets. So, I mean, I was like, how many measures is each section? How many times does that happen? But that music was a little different because you'd have a song that was in 7/4, and then it would go to, and there'd be a breakdown that was in 13/8. And the thing was, they didn't know any of that. They were just playing what they heard. They were just playing music, so they couldn't tell me that. I had to sit down, and I was very, very music school nerd writing it out because I didn't make the music. I couldn't hear it and feel it the same way they did. Especially not at that point in my development. So for that, I had stuff written out, and I was counting along to it while I listened. And then when it comes time to play it, I'm trying not to count it. I'm trying just to hear it and have it internalized by that point.
Gotcha.
But that's part of the process.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm learning. I'll talk about it on the show before. I've actually talked about it with you. I try to play drums every now and again. I can hit a snare drum, and I can hit the cymbals and stuff like that. But when it comes to knowing 13/8 and 7/5 and all of that, that gets into the math of it, and I don't really know my decimals like that. Is it decimals or is it fractions? Or no, I'm just Well, no, that's cool. So another question here is, so I see, you're playing in different places, like you said, Botanist and Barrel. You got your Port Tap Room and all that kind of stuff. Are you from Durham or Raleigh? Where are you from?
So I'm from North Carolina. I grew up in a town called Statesville. So it's over north of Charlotte. It's where I-40 and I-77 cross.
What brought you to this area? School?
So, school. Yeah, I went from Statesville. I moved to Greensboro. I went to UNCG for a year and a half, and I transferred to NCCU.
Yeah.
And so I've been in Durham for about 7 years now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay. About the same amount of time as me.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
But that's what brought me here. So school.
Nice.
Just moving away 1 hour at a time.
1 hour at a time. You just incremental. Are you going to stay?
But I don't want to go further east.
That's what I was about to say. You're going to stay in this area? Are you going to go back?
Right now, I'm going to stay in this area. No reason to move.
How do you feel about the music scene here in the Triangle from your lens as a musician, kind of out here? Once again, you're playing at different places.
Yeah.
What do you think about the music scene?
I mean, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. People and somehow people don't really know about it. There's been at least a couple really wonderful musicians who moved to the area recently, I think for university jobs. Rebecca Kleinman, flautist, who she has her own stuff, but actually sometimes she plays with my friends. Well, she's in a band, Tambem.
Okay, yeah.
Which is wonderful. And then Maya Kronfeld, who's a pianist and keyboard player, who I think is a professor at Duke now. Both of them moved to the area and had no idea about the music scene. And that's what I don't know if I think both of them had told me that they were like, I had no idea there was all this going on in Durham. Rebecca moved from out in California.
Okay, yeah.
And then Maya moved down here, I think from Philadelphia or Northeast. And so had no idea that it was so varied and busy and rich.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much going on. You mentioned tonight at Durham Beer Garden.
Yeah.
There's a CJ Baker's session, which is incredible. At Kingfisher,
That's right.
8 to 10:30. They bumped it up an hour.
Yeah.
Jeremy Bean Clemens is running a jam session, a jazz jam.
He's been doing that for a while now, hasn't he?
He's been doing that. Yeah, Bean took it over ever since Brian Horton passed away.
Yeah, yeah.
So just over a year, I guess about a year and a year and a half.
Yeah.
Something like that. Actually, Bean is on the road with Burning Spear, the reggae artist right now. So he has some different folks filling it. I think it's Alan Thompson on saxophone.
Oh, Alan's there. Is Alan there tonight?
I think Alan's there tonight.
Oh,
yeah,
shout
Alan's
out to
there
Alan
tonight.
Thompson.
And it's, I think, Dwayne Jordan on drums.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It might be Matt Booth on bass, but I don't remember. I was talking to the guys last week. I was there.
Oh man, I might have to check that out, man. Shout out to Alan Thompson. If you don't know Alan and you hadn't heard his horn, he's got a good horn. And Bull City in the Basement, giving them a shout out here. They're doing Sundays. Sundays is another popular day over at Bariqua Soul.
Yeah.
They do a jazz session, or a jam session, I guess you could call it, on the patio. And I want to say it starts at like 2:30 to 4:30 or something like that.
Right.
2:30 to 4:30. They are out there on the patio during these warmer months, during the spring and the summertime. So Bariqua Soul over at the American Tobacco Campus, Bull City in the Basement. They produce the music over there on Sundays. And I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. And if you're in Durham on a Sunday and you're looking for brunch, go over to Alley 26.
That's right.
Go over
Al
to
Strong.
Al Strong. Al Strong, his trumpet. If you don't know who Al Strong is, I don't know where you've been at. But Al Strong, and they put together, whether it's a trio or quartet, whatever, they're over at Alley 26. And I want to say they do that from 12 to 2.
Yep.
Something like that. So I've done it before. You go from Alley 26 to Bariqua Soul, you get your whole feel on a Sunday afternoon. But yeah, so just kind of throwing those things out there, kind of piggybacking off of what you said about how much, and we're just talking about, I just named off 2 places on a Sunday in Durham, right?
Right.
But
that's how good, I mean, the scene is so rich. We've got a bunch of, just a bunch of venues and a bunch of opportunities for people to do all sorts of stuff. Missy Lane's opened up recently, but the Sharp 9 has been a consistent venue for, I don't know how long they've been open.
Have you ever played there? Sharp 9?
I haven't gotten to perform there. I haven't performed at the Sharp 9, but I've seen a bunch of wonderful shows there.
Yeah, it's a great venue. Yeah. There's a lot, and then you think about the local scene. I say the local scene, but the restaurant, bar, brewery concept, the Sharp 9s of the world. And then you also have the Carolina Theater. You have DPAC. You have the bigger venues, and then you got like the Motor Coves and the Pinhooks and the Cat's Cradles and the Poorhouses. There's so many music venues.
Yeah, I mean, the Cat's Cradle is one of those kind of crazy storied venues.
Right, iconic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Been around forever, and so many people came through when they were just starting out. In all sorts of genres, from like DJs and hip hop to punk to folk, all this kind of stuff. Yep,
you're exactly right. And that's the other part about the scene here. I know I kind of asked you a leading question there, but that's the other part about the scene is that there's no one genre wins, right? Where you might be into rock, you might be into punk rock, you might be into classical, you might be into jazz, you might be into R&B, and literally there's somewhere that's playing that. And I think it's just an attribute, to the NCCUs of the world, and the Duke, all the jazz programs and music programs in the area that's producing people like yourself.
It's wonderful to have the colleges bringing a bunch of people into town and a lot of that energy, and it's also just great to have such a history of that kind of more rogue music making in the area. I think I can't remember if it's Emmylou Harris is from Chapel Hill.
Oh, yeah. Chapel Hill.
Okay, so we got a bunch of folks, and then the funny thing too is you were talking about all the different genres, and I can think of a handful of my friends who would be on every single one of those gigs.
Yeah,
There's this bassist, Butler Knowles.
Butler Knowles.
I saw him at Missy Lane's with Kenneth Whalum.
Wow.
And then he also plays like bluegrass.
Wow.
And everything in between. So
wow.
Just so many versatile musicians who really live in Durham, but maybe play all over the world.
Right.
And then they come home and you don't know that they were just on a European tour for 4 months.
Yeah. Just like I, just mentioned Marcel Anderson. Yeah. He's a vocalist. He's been over in Europe. Literally probably just got back. And now he's doing the show, this coming a weekend. He was just over in Europe doing a cruise line deal. And it's a lot. So I have a question for you again here.
Go for it.
If you had to choose, or you can choose, what genre are you playing? What's your favorite genre to play?
I mean, if I had to pick one that was my favorite to play, it's probably jazz.
Really?
You know, and you know, that's almost feels like cheating because so many things fall under the purview of jazz, you know, or a band, Black American music, as people, you know, is more modernly referred to. There's a saying that jazz died in, I think, 1960 or 1959 or whatever. There were a dozen or so, I don't remember how many records came out in, I think it was 59. That were all under the jazz label. They were, you know, they were in the jazz section of the record stores, and they sounded nothing alike. It was, I think you had bossa nova stuff, and you had some Miles Davis. One was I think the Stan Getz record. I'm gonna, man, if Thomas Taylor, someone's listening to this, they're gonna correct me on all this. Thomas Taylor, drum set professor at NCCU.
Okay.
So that's
shout out to Thomas Taylor.
yeah. But probably jazz. You know. It's what I've spent the most time working on, probably, in my own practice. It's what I've cultivated the most of a musical practice around. But I do always find it really refreshing, and whenever I, not take a break, but whenever I lean into some of those other genres, especially stuff that I grew up playing. You know, some of the things that I was playing when I started playing drums.
Interesting.
You know, sometimes if I'm just a little tired, especially when I was in school, you know, it's easy to get burnt out on stuff in school. I would go home and put on like a Fall Out Boy record or something that I hadn't played along to since high school, and just try to remember all the songs and the parts and the sections. Or Panic at the Disco. There's a bunch of those bands. Yeah. And afterwards, it was, you know, it was like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had to pick one, I'd pick jazz.
Pick jazz to play. Okay. What about listen to? You just driving along. You just want to kind of zone out. What you're listening to?
Yeah, I mean, it might have to be the same answer.
It
might have to be the same answer.
That's
I think still jazz music. You know, there's times when I want other stuff. I was on a real big Earl Scruggs kick for my last year of undergrad, which was funny to be listening to like banjo music. Yeah. But you know, I was driving back from a friend's wedding a couple weeks ago, listening to this Keith Jarrett album, solo piano, The Melody at Night with You. I think it was. I didn't realize, didn't find out until then. It was recorded as a birthday present for his wife. Oh wow! There's these beautiful, beautiful love songs. Wow. And so I'm just driving through the mountains on the most perfect spring day, listening to My Wild Irish Rose, and like about to, you know, having a real strong emotional connection response to it. I was driving to a gig last week with my friend Nick, and we put on this record. It was Ray Brown and Duke Ellington, a duo record. I'll find the name for a second, but we listened to the first song, "Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me," and you know, and had moved me a lot. But, you know, Nick started, not to call him out, started crying a little bit just because it was beautiful. It wasn't a sad song. Wow. It was just I think the conviction and tenderness of it. So let me find what's that record called right here. This one's for Blanton. Duke Ellington and Ray Brown, 1972. This one's for Blanton. Yeah. Interesting. So I think just because of how broad and varied it is, and also how much stuff you can sneak in there. There's this band Irakere is like a Cuban jazz stuff. They had an album someone gave me a few years back, Misa Negra, that I was starting to revisit. That sounds nothing like any of that other stuff. Yeah. So I feel like saying jazz is just cheating. That's my answer. Yeah. No, I mean that's fair. That's totally fair. And I'm thinking here. So one of the things if you've been listening to the show, if you've been watching the show, you know, I say this very often, but for me, when it comes to art, music especially, but art in general, whether it's a poem, whether it's a painting, whether it's a song, art should make you feel something. Yeah. It should drive forth an emotional connection, whether it's a good emotion, bad emotion, whatever it's going to make you feel, it should make you feel something, whether it's lighthearted, deep, it doesn't matter. And the concept of what you're talking about, you know, you're listening to a solo piano and you can feel an emotional connection to that. How do you think that comes about? Do you think that the artist meant for it to be like that when they were writing it? Like, how do you think that happens from the artist creating the music to the listener? I think I've thought about this a lot, and I think I've thought different things each time I thought it, but all kind of in the same area. I think that when the artist is trying to convey something, and it doesn't really matter what that is, as long as it's kind of an honest.
Yeah. It's a good word.
Bare, really, expression of something, whether, like you said, whether it's sorrow or joy or love or, happiness. And then when the listener is also in a position to really accept that it can resonate with them. Because I've listened to the same song on one day and been like, oh, that's cool, and the next day, and it stops me, I'm walking down the hallway and I start crying. Or one day my heart starts racing because I'm so excited about what's going on musically, and then I can listen to it again, even maybe that evening. Of course that moment has passed when I was ready to receive what the artist had created. But I do think it maybe starts with intentionality on the artist side. I remember, and then the other side of that, and then I'll tell my little short story. And the other side of that is that the audience member, whoever's listening, whoever's is in a position to receive that without reservation, or without kind of a block. Because sometimes you've put up your walls and you're like, I'm not ready to feel sad today. I can't do it for whatever reason, and maybe you don't need to, and that's fine. And sometimes the music chips away at it a little bit, and it gives you that emotional release. A moment of clarity for me around that emotional response and how it happens. I got to see the Branford Marsalis Quartet for the first time, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. Shortly after I moved to Durham, and they performed this piece, 1,000 Autumns, and again, just like the last couple songs I was talking about, I remember sitting in the concert hall. All I know is it's called 1,000 Autumns. There's no words. There's no nothing.
Okay.
And he's playing this, and I'm, having a very strong emotional reaction. Feel like I could cry if I wanted to, if I, and really resonating with something. Something is being explicitly communicated to me, even though I do not know what the song's about. And I get to talk to Branford afterwards and ask him about it. And he said that's a piece that he wrote for Wayne Shorter when I think his wife and son passed away in an accident.
Wow.
And it was learning that after having the experience in response to it that I couldn't explain and didn't. I mean, in the moment, you don't want to try to analyze it,
right?
Because then you're not feeling it, you're not experiencing it. But to reflect on it and go, wow, why did that have such an impact on me? And to then say, oh, because it's about something so impactful and so sad. Of course, it would strike that kind of chord within you.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I resonate with that. Play on words. You resonate. I resonate with that. And I was watching. So yesterday was Memorial Day, right? Yesterday was Memorial Day, and I was actually watching a little bit of the NASCAR race. I used to actually work for NASCAR. People who don't know. I was watching a little bit of it, and they were doing a little history on Taps. The song Taps. And they were kind of going through the history of like kind of how it came about after the Civil War, all this kind of stuff, and when it was written. And they were playing it. They played it a couple times, and like, when you kind of put yourself in the mind frame to really listen to it, you get this emotional. You kind of the dots connect. The dots connect with the song, and then they played. I forget the name of the musician, a military musician, of course, at John F. Kennedy. Yeah, at his funeral, they played Taps on the bugle. Right. This is the first time I actually know a bugle. Is that different than a trumpet? We'll come back to that.
Yeah, it doesn't have valves. Trumpet has valves. Bugle doesn't.
Bugle doesn't have valves. Anyway, so we're learning today. This is what this is about, right? So he was playing the bugle, and I want to say Taps, and if you're out there, you can put in the comments. Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say it only has like 24 notes or something like that. It only has like 24 notes, and on the 6th note, while he was playing, it was like a break in the note. It was like a break in the note. Technically, it was wrong, right? Technically, he broke the note and he wasn't supposed to do it. But later on, a lot of theorists and music theorists and music scholars think that he did it on purpose to show or to convey almost like a cry. Mm-hmm. It sounded like a cry. That break in that note sounded like a cry to convey what was happening in that moment. And I was watching it and, just kind of understanding, just kind of different things. And we're having this conversation about conveying emotion in music and the concept of, musicians and producers of music or whatever genre, it doesn't matter. But how you can write and how you can maneuver notes and how you can maneuver lyrics to show something and to convey something to the listener that might otherwise not be there, and they were talking about that break. And they spent, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes just literally talking about that one note that he broke on the bugle that doesn't have valves, on the bugle, and how they think that he was trying to almost shed a tear with the music. And I thought that was just very interesting. And I knew I was going to have to bring it up some kind of way today.
Yeah, well, we got there.
We got there, and I wanted to, pay homage to Memorial Day and all of those, fallen soldiers that we memorialized.
Absolutely.
On that day. So, hey, if you're just joining in, we're on the backside of this thing. I'm Cameron McCarty. This is the RDU Live Show, and we're right here on Oak 93.5 WRLY. We have Patrick McGrew sitting across from us. We've been having a conversation here. We've just been talking music and just having a general conversation about things that are going on in the Triangle. And we're on the backside of this thing. Hey, I apologize to everybody out there. Usually this is a call-in show. I know we had a caller call in. It may have been Larry John. I did talk to him. He was supposed to call in, so my apologies. The phone lines, we're having some technical issues in the background with it, but we'll try again next week. That is my apologies for actually putting that out there at the top of the show like I normally do. But so, we're on the backside of this thing, and I want people to really know what all you have going on. I know you teach music a little bit. You got, you're playing some gigs and stuff, and you got, social media, all that kind of stuff. Let the people know what you're doing and where they can find you.
Well, let's start with that first one, teaching. So I've taught for a number of years. I mean, really since I was 16, but when I had my first student. But more professionally for, I guess, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And as of December, I now run my own music school, McGrew School of Music.
The McGrew School of Music.
That's right, McGrew School of Music.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. We just had our first recital, our spring recital, on this past Saturday.
Wow.
And it was beautiful. 10 students rolled up, but a bunch of family was in town, so it was probably 50 plus people in that room.
That's a big deal, man.
It was a big deal. It was great, and they tore it up. So with that, we teach lessons either, there's not one physical location. We come to your house or you come to our homes. There's different instructors teach different places. I'm based in Durham. I live near Hillside. I teach drums and piano.
Okay.
I've got someone who teaches singing, voice lessons, and ukulele lessons, and someone else who teaches guitar lessons.
Okay.
So the website for that is McGrew School of Music, MCGREW, schoolofmusic.com. Wow. And that has information with the calendar and tuition and all that stuff on there, as well as a contact form to reach and either have a trial lesson or go ahead and sign up for the whole thing. Our summer, we're on a little break now, and our summer session starts June 10th. But summer's real flexible, so you can kind of pick and choose weeks. Because everyone's going on trips. I'm trying to go on some trips.
There you go. Yeah.
So, so that's where you can reach me for teaching. If you want lessons from me or anyone else, we got you. I actually don't have a website for my band, but my Instagram is @PatrickMcGrewMusic. All one word, no underscores, nothing, just @PatrickMcGrewMusic. That's where I try to keep up to date, posting about performances. And, videos after the fact of them. So those are really my only social media ones. And then if you want to reach out to me with, if you want music, I mean, I book my band, but I also book DJs and I've done stuff for different events. Larger and smaller, groups, parties, events, stuff like that. Everything from the AKA Gala to the 95th Anniversary Gala in last May. We had a jazz quartet and then a DJ afterwards for the dance party. So to weddings, we did one in Virginia Beach last year. Sorry, that same month.
Yeah.
But my email is Patrick B. McGrew, B as in boy, Patrick B. McGrew @gmail.com. So that's where you can reach me on all that. And then as far as what's coming up,
Yeah.
This coming Saturday, I'm playing a gig with the singer-songwriter Debbie Lisk, who I perform with, and she's putting this on. It's actually a fundraiser, and it's to raise awareness about breast cancer in the Black community.
Wow. Okay.
And the kind of extra hurdles that Black women face.
Yeah. In healthcare industry.
Healthcare in general.
Yeah, in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's in partnership with a few different groups who are going to have tables and tent set up, and that is at it's at the clubhouse in her neighborhood. I'll give y'all the address right here for that because I don't think it has a name. But that is right here. 5109 Pinecone Drive. It's the Five Oaks Recreational Association. It's the clubhouse. But that's where that event's happening, and that is 7 p.m. this Saturday.
Okay.
Of course, the jam session is next Thursday the 6th. I'm actually going to be in New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
So Chris Mills, that's right. It's my first trip, so I'm excited to go check it out. Chris Mills is going to be hosting that.
Okay.
All the details are the same. Just Chris is going to be running that session.
And if you, I'm going to pause you right here real quick. If you didn't know, the session out there at the Pour Tap Room, it's a great place to be. When the weather's like this, and the sun goes down, you're sitting out there on the patio. It's downtown, center city Durham. The cityscape it's a beautiful place to sit. We've gone and we've gotten ice cream at one of the parlors, and you just hang out and you eat some ice cream, maybe have a beer. If that's not what you're into, drink some water, have some ice cream, and listen to some jazz music with a cityscape behind you.
It's a great time, and I wish there was more music outside downtown, especially in places that are comfortable to hang out outside, because that's a very pedestrian friendly part of town. Yeah, and there aren't many of those. Exactly.
And we're talking about all this construction, right? No, but it's that place. If you're not familiar with where Port Tap Room is, it's downtown Durham, Center City. If you know where the bull, the iconic
the bull.
Yep, the bull. It's right across the street next to Unscripted. That area, that's where Port Tap Room is. And I personally like going to that jam session and hanging out and just enjoying the vibe. So you got that jam session coming up. Go ahead.
We got that coming up. And then, let's see, again, every Thursday. Well, I say every Thursday. And then it's the June 6th, 13th, and the 27th, playing those Thursdays at Boxyard.
Okay.
That's noon to 2 with Nick Van Buskirk.
Okay.
And then playing a jazz trio at Arcana on June 15th, that Saturday night at 9 to 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So that's what I got coming up this next month.
You got a full calendar, man.
It's a good bit of stuff.
You got a full calendar. How do you go about getting these gigs? We got a couple more minutes. I just got that question for you because you're always working, man. You're always working. How do you find them? How do they find you?
Right. Sometimes it's when I was just starting, I had an email template basically. Okay. Then I would find gigs that other people were playing or that advertised having music. We're playing at I don't even know if I mentioned this one. I think it's the 20th. I'm playing at Google Huff.
Oh, yep. There we go.
There we go. I forgot about that. But a friend sent me when Google Huff was like, "Hey, we're trying to hire musicians." Some other places, I just knew they had music, and I would send them an email. I had videos from other gigs. I had it on a Google Drive, so I'd send them the spiel. Hey, I'd love to play there. This is my experience and where else we've played. Here's some videos. Let me know what dates you have available and what your budget is. And sometimes they ask me what my budget is, and I tell them I'm trying to only book stuff for the union rate, the musicians union. So shout out to the musicians union. Yeah, we've had that conversation before.
We did. Yeah. You're always educating me on something. That's why I like talking to you, Patrick.
Thanks.
You're always educating me on something. So man, like it's just interesting, talking to different musicians and kind of their process, one of making music, but then also of getting gigs, like the back behind the scenes kind of background business of it, and actually getting booked and making money doing this thing and being a musician, because it all of it works together, right? You got to know how to play the music, but you got to know how to send an email, right?
Yes, and that's the thing, because it's exhausting. You'll send out 15 emails and you'll get 2 back.
Yeah.
But that one, we played at Botanist and Barrel this last year. This was our 3rd year having a monthly residency at Botanist and Barrel.
Wow.
So it's because I sent them. They were one of the 2 or 3 people who hit me back 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's, just what it takes. Either someone will say, take us off your list, we don't do music anymore, or they just won't respond.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, when can you do it? Here's some dates, pick one.
Yeah.
So, you got to be able to send an email.
You got to be able to, and just kind of put yourself out there. Put yourself out there and do it. Like you said, there's a lot of places around. There's a lot of places around, and there's enough places doing music for musicians to get in and find a place to play. That's what I'm noticing. There's a lot of places that are having music, and it's only growing. It's only growing. So, I appreciate you for coming on the show today, man. We're on the bottom side of this hour, and I appreciate this conversation and you teaching the people. So.
Man, thanks so much again for inviting me, Cam. This has been fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. I love talking about all this.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I love learning and talking music and kind of nerding out sometimes, and talking about stuff I don't know what I'm talking about. I like it. I like it. So we got Patrick McGrew. That's Patrick McGrew Music.
Yep.
On Instagram. Patrick McGrew Music on Instagram, and that's McGrew School of Music.com.
That's right. That's for all teaching. If you want,
is there a certain age range or anything for you?
My youngest student is 5, and my oldest student is 78.
Well, there we go.
So no.
Well, there we go. If you're in diapers, one way or the other.
Yeah. Under 5, maybe not. We've tried that. It's a little too young.
Yeah.
But 5 and up.
5 and up.
It's all the way up. So
5 and up.
Yeah.
Nice. And you'll come to them. They can come to you.
Exactly.
Cool. So if you're looking to learn, what is it? Drums, ukulele?
Drums, piano, ukulele, singing, guitar.
Okay.
And if there's something else, I know someone who can teach it to you as
go.
well.
There we go. If you're looking to learn music, the McGrew School of Music.com or Patrick McGrew Music on Instagram, and you can see all the whole list of the calendar of what you got going on.
I need to post that.
Yeah, you see? This is why we do this.
I can send an email now. If only I could post on Instagram.
That's what people like me are here to help you with. So we'll talk about it.
Great.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you for coming on and having this conversation. I know that people appreciate you and your time and sharing a little wisdom with us. So thank you.
Yeah, man, thank you, and thanks to anyone who tuned in to listen. Everyone who's listening.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Likewise, we appreciate you. We appreciate all the listeners out there. Look, this is the RDU Live radio show. We're here every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Next week, Camus Leonardo will be on. He'll be on, and he's going to have Vinny Dangerous. He's a hip-hop guy. He hip-hop musician, a producer, makes his own music. He also has a podcast out there. So be on the lookout next week, Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Camus Leonardo and Vinny Dangerous on the RDU Live Tapped In series. Look, we're going to sign off of here and let you have your evening back. Y'all be safe out there. This has been Cameron McCarty. This is the RDU Live show right here on Oak 93.5 WRLY. And like I like to say, let's go live.
Hold on, little girl. Show me what he's done to you. Stand up, little girl. A broken heart can't be that bad when it